Welcome to WrestleWolf. I am Damian Gibson. This is Reconsidering WCW Nitro. And joining me, as always, is the man, the mystery, the enigma. I'm so excited. I'm hitting my own microphone stand. It's Matthew.
Hello.
Hey, man.
How you going?
Are you ready to talk about some Monday nights?
Yes, I absolutely am.
How big does Eric go at the beginning of every Nitro?
It's an important show. You got to sell it.
It is, and he is, but he's like at 11. It's amazing. Welcome to Monday nights. This is live Nitro. Like it's mental. I don't know how you felt about this Nitro. I felt like it was a bit. We'll get into it. Now, should we start with Pepe Watch?
I missed what the dog was dressed as this time.
He's wearing a saddle.
You can't ride that dog. You shouldn't ride that dog. It's a small dog.
He was wearing a little saddle, and Steve Mongo McNuggets was offering Bobby the Brain Heenan a ride. And Bobby the Brain was saying, I would not ride that that giant tarantula for anything.
Well, it's not sensible. So good job. Bobby's right.
Bobby's usually right. Even though he's the heel commentator, most of the time I'm like, you make perfect sense. Is that just what a heel commentator is in wrestling? Someone coming in and being like the silly officer from Monty Python?
Yep. A good one anyway.
Sorry, the sketch is too silly. This gimmick's too silly. Silly. Speaking of silly, we start off with the Nitro debut of the Disco Inferno. And he's got a match against Alex Wright. Can I tell you, Matt, that I love Disco Inferno? Well, I did at the time, which is weird because I don't really like disco music. I have no affiliation with Italian 70s New York culture, but I loved Disco Inferno for some reason.
Well, that's not what I was expecting you to say.
I don't know if the feeling's going to be replicated in 2020, but in 1995-96, I really liked him for some reason.
This is his debut against Alex Wright, and the fans first of all go mental for Alex Wright, to the point where I was like, something's happening here, and like I don't know if they've been paid, I don't know if they were like hyped up beforehand, if there's something else going on because they're not that excited about Alex Wright. And then the commentators, as soon the match rings and they start talking about Hulk Hogan.
Wow. As we know, Matt, when Hulk isn't on screen, what should the audience be doing?
Asking where Hulk Hogan is.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like this match didn't go for very long. I didn't even write down. Alex Wright gets the win. And both of these guys showed that they could actually wrestle a little bit. Alex Wright is much better than Disco Inferno in ring, I think, but Disco Inferno can hold his own. Like he can have an okay match.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like we're so far removed from Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio to kick off Nitro with this match.
As I watched this, I was like, oh, Sabu is gone, isn't he? Like they just haven't. It's like I would much rather see Sabu versus a chair than this. But sure.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
You're like, where's Johnny B. Bad?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Or Paul Orndorff. Either one.
I like that. I feel like off air you're going to be like, hey man, can you just like stop mentioning that I sort of don't hate Johnny B. Bad? Like I think it's like a little bit disrespectful.
It's ruining my credibility. I can't go to war with the boys from What Culture if they know that my favorite wrestler of all time is Johnny B. Bad. Now we all want to know where Hulk Hogan is, and he cuts a promo here where he's got a neck brace on. Him and Jimmy Hart like doing a promo, cutting a promo straight to film in a locker room is one of my enduring fondest memories of wrestling.
I just like that it's clearly a set locker room as well. Like it's not a real like why? Why don't they just use a real locker room?
I know they have a locker room, like obviously.
Also, Hulk Hogan threatens the Giant because Andre the Giant is kayfabe Big Show's father, and he's like, "You'll be laid to rest with your father."
Yeah,
that's a pretty full-on thing to say to someone.
Yeah, and remember, Hulk Hogan is the biggest face ever in the history of wrestling, and he says things like this all the time and cheats all the time, and it's just accepted because I don't know, it's the Hulkster. No one ever really cares or pays any attention. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I can tell you from my perspective, definitely not caring at this stage.
No. I've always just been like, yeah, cool. The Hulk can do whatever he wants. So essentially, he says that he's getting his own giant truck, monster truck, sorry, and that he wants to have a truck off with. I was about to call him the Big Show with the Giant.
The big, stinky, nasty Giant.
Big, stinky, nasty Giant. I know from personal experience that this monster truck match is one of your favorite things to at least reference in wrestling of all time.
That's because it's one of the finest things to ever happen outside of the ring.
So I can't. Every time I hear them mention this, I'm like, "Oh, Matt must be just fucking losing his mind." And I feel like it's almost half the reason why you wanted to do the podcast was so that you could talk about this monster truck.
Well, that's what I'm sick of this garbage narrative where they're like, "Oh, you know, WCW was shit," and then the NWO came about, and like people sort of liked it for a minute, and then like WCW went back to complete garbage. I'm like, WCW was great. The monster truck battle happened, and they could never follow up on like something that big and incredible and what a spectacle. And it fell apart from there with all this rubbish about like Hulk Hogan being, how can he be a bad guy? He's got a giant monster truck. Oh my god. It makes me so angry. This NWO garbage.
Bischoff came along with all his Japanese garbage and just ruined the promo. Ruined the promotion.
Hate it so much.
We'll
get there.
Yeah. I hope you don't hate it that much because we've got like a good 3 years of the promotion being nothing but world orders.
I'm going to be really, really positive for the next 6 months of this podcast, but far out, you people are in for some negativity when it comes to the part that everyone likes.
Yeah, I'm quite trepidatious about going back to, especially the part that I really loved at the time, like NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack. Like I remember at the time loving that, and I feel like as a 40-year-old man, I'm going to be like, this is atrocious. But anyway, that's
well, maybe you'll understand it on a deeper level because you'll still be younger than anyone else involved in that storyline at the time.
I'll contort some ridiculous logic into being able to like it. I'll find something to justify it to myself. We had another Slim Jim ad. I feel like we're just going to get a Slim Jim ad every Nitro for the rest of time until Macho Man leaves. That leads into it's almost a signal. It's almost like the Macho signal that you know that Macho Man's going to be on the show next once you see the Slim Jim ad. Mean Gene is in the ring again, doing another interview with Macho Man on the back of interviewing him last week in ring. And Macho Man calls out Lex Luger, who runs straight to the ring. They're both in ring gear this time, rather compared to last week. Luger challenges Macho Man to a match next Monday and says if he loses, he'll leave WCW, which he just got there. I mean, how how like annoying would that be?
Well, it's sometimes like he's in the probationary period of his employment. Really,
That's true. He doesn't have to give any notice.
God, I hope he leaves.
Doesn't lose any annual leave.
I if I could have one wish, it would be that Lex Luger loses and leaves and never comes back. So let's see if I'm magic or not.
We
Next
we
week.
have identified a weakness early on. It's the one thing that not that we disagreed much so far, but this is the one thing that we both 100% agree on is every time Lex Luger walks on screen, both of us are like, okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's Johnny B. Bad now? I wonder.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. When Johnny B. Bad isn't on screen, I'm wondering, where's Johnny B. Bad?
Why are the commentators talking about this other guy?
Yeah, they're always talking about Hulk Hogan. I mean, surely Johnny B. Bad is more money than Hogan, right?
Agree. Hard agree.
Do you know what Johnny B. Bad's face looks like? When they show botched plastic surgery? Like when a Hollywood actress has had too much plastic surgery, sort of looks like a cat woman.
That's
Like half
exactly what
cat,
he looks
half
like.
woman. That's what he does, though. Johnny B. Bad looks exactly like that. Macho Man accepts this match. Now, I'm not. You got to help me out here. Did he put his WCW career on the line as well, or is it just Lex's?
No, it's just Lex's. But then later on, the commentators, I think Bobby the Brain's doing a bit of good old JR, not paying heaps of attention. He's like, well, one of them will be out of WCW, and it's like, I suspect neither of them will be, because it's not the stipulation of the match. And further, it happened a long time ago, and I know that they both continue to be in the WCW.
Spoilers, man. Spoilers.
Sorry.
Macho Man puts his hand out, which is weird as well, because last week it felt like Macho Man was being a dick. And now, Lex Luger. So Lex Luger refuses to shake his hand, just walks out of the ring.
Well, I think they're developing complex characters. Like people are contradictory and all that kind of stuff, and they're doing that by having people do things that are the exact opposite of anything that would make sense for their character.
It's the WCW way. Halloween Havoc is announced next, and it's official. There is going to be a machine versus machine match. The Giant versus Hulk Hogan, both who have had their own monster trucks made.
If you're watching along with us, you are in for, and you've not seen this, you are in for such a treat.
This is
I don't know if you like wrestling, you just have accidentally downloaded this podcast and you're like, oh, this sounds interesting. Oh my God.
You're a family member of ours and you're just checking to see what this weird obsession is that both of us go off into our rooms and talk about for hours on end. The fact that sentence is one of the most wild sentences I've ever said in any wrestling podcast I've ever done. This match is official. It's a machine versus machine match.
Brian Cage versus a mirror.
Don't bring up. You get upset when you bring up Brian Cage. You seem like you're in a good mood. I don't want you to get upset. Now I'm bringing this match up next because it was on the show. But oh man, Kurosawa versus, that's the most Australian pronouncement of that name ever. Kurosawa versus Sergeant Craig Pitman. We spoke about Pitman was on Fall Brawl, and we were very much of the opinion of meh. Has anything changed for you?
Nope,
Matt.
I just want to point out this is the second match running where the commentators talking about Hulk Hogan, but they're also talking about how good his monster truck's going to be.
Yeah.
And then I looked up Kurosawa. He he became, about 15 years after this, New Japan Heavyweight Champion. He has a really great career. He was in a tag team that really sort of captured my imagination with their name, because it was called Muscle Orchestra.
That's not bad,
I was
actually.
like, I wish I was in Muscle Orchestra.
Yeah, that's yeah. I really like their album, The Gold, that came out a couple of years ago.
He had a great career. He got injured in 2011 and retired from that injury in 2020, which makes like Edge look kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like he wrestled 9 years with a broken neck.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt Angle's always banging on about how he won a gold medal with a broken neck. Well, Kurosawa wrestled for 9 years with a broken back. So,
Unfortunately for him, this match was nothing to be interested in.
no, Kurosawa gets the pin. It is an insight into Bischoff's love of New Japan, which I didn't really. I mean, there's the NWO and like that story essentially was nicked from Japan, although you get varying degrees of yes and no from that, but it was. Well, I didn't realize until sort of listening to a bit of 83 weeks that Bischoff like loves Japan, the country, but also New Japan. He's like he's a. You always get again. This is another one of those narratives where Eric Bischoff gets painted as like just this sort of, slick guy who never really cared about wrestling and got lucky for a few years by hiring the best wrestlers in the world or the most popular at the very least. But when you listen to 83 Weeks, it's like, no, he's a fan. Like, yeah, he loves it. And this was another sort of glimpse of that, of him bringing Japanese wrestlers over for the promotion. But Kurosawa got the pin. If I never see Sergeant Craig Pitman again, it'll be too soon.
I'm sure we'll see him all the time.
Oh, no. Next up, we have Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman in an interview that, now, on our last episode, I was asking for some semblance of storytelling rules in this Ric Flair and Arn Anderson storyline, and I got it, but it was a week after Ric Flair came out and did the face promo that he should have done after this promo.
Yeah, they're mix and matching things. It's like Memento. Like, you don't know what's going to happen until like November of 2001, and then it all makes sense, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, no, I would say that Bischoff and Kevin Sullivan's booking is as close to Christopher Nolan's direction as anything that I can find in art.
Absolutely.
Anderson and Pillman. Well, first of all, Pillman's got a backwards bum bag on for a start. He's got he's actually got his bum bag on his bum, or fanny pack for our American listeners. They're both awful, ridiculous names for a ridiculous piece of paraphernalia that no grown man should wear ever. Remember, like, that was the wrestler. Like, for the next sort of 4 or 5 years, you'll see wrestlers wearing these all the time. And I can't.
It's
Like,
because
what's in them?
they're physically so massive that they can't fit things in their pockets. So they've just got like their wallet, their chapstick. It's like, yes, they're superhuman, but yes, their lips get dry. Maybe a pen to note down things, and maybe a little notepad. I would like to know. To be honest, maybe deodorant, because they're like, I imagine you get sweaty if you're a human.
Roll on stick.
Yeah, like you can keep all kinds of things in there. Like
Maybe
little. I don't think any of them are keeping little books in there. That's what I suspect.
I mean, surely you've got to have your Frog Eye Oakley's case in there.
And necklaces. That seemed to be a thing wrestlers were really into. So, like, maybe they just kept extra necklaces in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of jewels. Yeah. Like, I mean, Hulkster earlier in the episode was wearing 2 crucifixes and took one off in that promo as well. Did you notice that?
Yeah, he loved Jesus less by the end of the promo.
So anyway, Arn Anderson and Pillman have been in on this together the whole time, supposedly. And at the end of the promo, they're doing Four Horsemen sort of the Four Horsemen hand signal to the crowd. There's a whole bunch of talk about a tag team match. Have I completely missed this?
No,
Like,
it hasn't been mentioned previously. At least not on Nitro. Potentially on Saturday night. I don't know because I'm not that committed.
yeah, it must have been on Saturday night, right? They couldn't have left something that obvious just in.
I don't know who Rick. So they're saying, oh, Rick can't find a partner. Rick can't find a partner. The logical person that in the Ric Flair surprise partner versus Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman would be Tully Blanchard, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to go there. Like it might just be Craig Pitman or I don't know. I can't think of any other wrestler other than Craig Pitman and Tully Blanchard. But
well, they say he's already asked Sting, and Sting's told him to piss off, basically. So that's who I would have thought, because Sting's not doing anything at the moment. Where is Sting?
I don't know. He's sizing up the rafters and stuff.
Right. Well, he's US champion, but he's just not. Nothing's happening with that storyline.
Yeah, that sucks. I forgot that he was US champion. Hopefully, we get to see Sting soon.
Yeah. Next up, we had the Taskmaster versus Macho Man, and now this is kind of like an extra long segment that goes for the rest of the episode, basically. I just want to point out that Macho Man's WCW theme rules.
It's cool, hey?
Yeah. That piece of music is Pomp and Circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So the WWF one was a stringed version of that, and this is this sort of awful 80s hair metal guitar version of it.
It's so sick.
That I love. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, that's so cool. Now Zodiac is out there. He's the only member of the Dungeon of Doom. Man, what a character Zodiac is.
Do you know that did you notice that he'd like shaped his hair into having a little horn at the front? Like he sort of looked like a narwhal.
Yeah, yeah. He had that at Fall Brawl, to be honest. I did notice that at Fall Brawl as well. But I think like it's one of those things that like as soon as he exerts himself and any sweat gets into his hair, it disappears.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like Alfalfa from Little Rascals, just to pull out a reference from the 1920s.
Which compared to Kevin Sullivan, who looks like all of my dad's friends. Like he has that kind of like, he's like sort of a fat guy in a polo shirt, but you can tell he used to be really muscly, and he's got like a very good looking 45-year-old blonde wife, and he works for like the Royal Auto Service, and like it's like that's who he is. Except he's also the devil, according to Ric Flair.
Oh man! So this match kicks off, and there isn't a huge amount happening. There's a very sort of weak spot where I think Zodiac was meant to already be up on the ropes, so Macho Man could swing Kevin Sullivan into him. He's not there, so when Macho Man turns around, they sort of have to on the fly call it. Sullivan is kind of just left on the ropes hanging while Macho Man like basically rips Zodiac into the ring. The ref tries to stop Macho Man from doing this, and that gets disqualified because he won't. And I like that. You don't see that. I mean, this kind of stuff happens in almost every match in every promotion now, and no one gets disqualified at all.
And this match is not good. Other than that, so.
No. Well, it was a blessing that it ended. Yes. Macho Man goes crazy. He tries to pile the two of them on top of each other and then give a flying elbow off the top rope. And then the Giant comes out to help out. And then it's send in the jobbers time. Essentially, he chokeslams Macho Man, and then
Did you notice that his chokeslam, he follows them to the mat?
Mm,
That's cool.
yeah,
That's way
yeah,
cooler than just the big drop.
yeah, for sure. It looks, and because he hits the ring, like the whole ring shakes, and like it makes a big impact. Early Paul White, like the majority of Paul White's run in WCW, he's good.
Yeah.
You know, like I think he's really good. Big Show has been around for so long in WWF or WWE. It's hard for me, especially like I mean, he mainline mainline. He didn't mainline anything.
That
He headlined Raw 2 weeks ago, and it was, I mean, it was essentially so Randy Orton could just kick the shit out of him. But I've just lost like any all the goodwill that I've had for Paul White has been I've lost because of the years of having him shoved down my throat so conveniently as well. You know, you don't see him for weeks, and then all of a sudden he's out there killing someone for the sake of a story. And but when having him on Nitro, no one can get even close to him. Like they're building him up so much for this match with Hulk Hogan. It's even though it's like done in a super dumb Nitro amazingly awesome way, it is still building him up, right? Like there's a part of me that's like as a 40-year-old watching this today, I was like, Hulk's gonna have his work cut out for him to beat the Giant.
He will, hopefully. And also just to point out, we're talking about Hulk Hogan, but this was the only match in the show where Hulk Hogan wasn't mentioned.
Yeah. Well, the guys really dropped the ball on this, you know.
There was a moment where I didn't think of Hulk Hogan in this show, so pick up your game, guys.
Yeah, I was, because Johnny B. Bad wasn't on. So
yeah. You're like, is he hanging around with Hulk Hogan right now?
Must be. Johnny B. Bad must be just, looking after Hulk, making sure his neck brace is okay, all that kind of thing. So after the Giant has chokeslammed like basically every jobber they can get their hands on, Lex Luger comes out. Macho Man is like flat out on the mat, and then just almost out of nowhere, Bobby the Brain is like, "Whose side is he on?" It's almost like the third man reveal. In fact, it's like they were doing a dress rehearsal for it.
Yeah.
Except this is shit, and that was awesome. Lex Luger stands over Macho Man, and I'm like, oh my god, did Lex Luger join the Dungeon of Doom? I don't remember this at all. And then the Giant grabs Lex Luger and chokeslams him as well.
And then Kevin Sullivan tells him off, which still, once again, doesn't make sense.
No, what is going on? Is he part of Dungeon of Doom? Does Kevin Sullivan think that he can get Lex Luger into the Dungeon of Doom?
I think that's where it's going.
Yeah, can someone explain something to me, for God's sake? So then we cut to an ad break, and when we return from the ad break, Lex Luger's still in the ring. He's, from that choke slam.
Thank God.
Everyone else is gone. And then we get the match that we've all been waiting for, Lex Luger versus Meng. Matt, you still there?
Oof.
Matt?
This is a match, or as I like to call it, a rest hold.
Yeah, man.
This shouldn't have happened, to be honest. This was a mistake.
Yeah. It doesn't really, I mean, I suppose the only thing that you can say is that it slightly propels this kind of Mega Powers versus Dungeon of Doom story, kind of, like from Fall Brawl, those four, the Sting, Hulk.
If you
Lex
want
Luger
it propelled in this manner, then you're wrong.
No, I'm not saying I do want it. I'm saying like
I
thing.
that sounded very aggressive. I didn't mean you. I mean the royal you. I mean the booking committee. If they're like, this is how we're going to propel this story, they're wrong.
Yeah, that's. I was just about to say the exact same thing. Yeah, it's weird, and in the end, it was only 6 or 7 minutes, but it felt like it went forever. It was essentially just Meng in a rest hold, and then occasionally sort of getting Luger to the mat with a chokehold or a body slam or something. He was legitimately just killing time. So much so, I mean, Luger had a couple of comebacks, but and Ming ended up winning the match as well. I expected that like Luger would have a comeback and win. At least there'd be that sort of payoff for the people who've stuck around. But I don't know if you noticed, each time there was a wide shot, there were less people in the background.
Well, you got to get the jump on the traffic.
I would have been 30 seconds into this match. I'd be like, kids, you want to watch a Lex Luger match? And hopefully if they were my kids, they'd be like, no. Like, all right, let's go.
They'd be like, but Dad, what if Johnny B. Bad comes out? And you're like, yes, you're right, we'll stay.
All right,
Shit.
fine. You know my kryptonite, kids. You know my kryptonite is Johnny B. Bad.
Hulk Hogan's, I just realised this. All the faces like run out and stuff. If Hulk Hogan's in the locker room, what the fuck's he doing at this point?
Putting his crucifix back on.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is, it's nice that he refound that extra faith.
He's like, he is in a neck brace.
Yeah, but he wants to take it off.
To be fair, I mean, kayfabe wise,
he off, and Jimmy Hart like muscles it onto him somehow.
I know that beast of a man, Jimmy Hart.
Do you know we're literally talking about something Hulk Hogan did earlier in the show? This is the main
We're doing the thing, yeah. We're doing the thing that we always tease Eric and Brain for doing. but seriously, when you dish up Lex Luger versus Ming, of course we're going to end up talking about Hulk Hogan and Johnny B. Bad, the two biggest stars in the company.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, well, that's half right.
Yeah, I suppose Hulk's star was waning at this stage. So, and I just wanted to point out as well, the show has run early, if that makes sense, for the last 2 weeks. Like they've had to cut to, and maybe it was a conscious decision to end the show with Eric Bischoff talking, but it doesn't seem very exciting to me, and it feels like it's a runtime thing where they've just gone, oh shit, cut to Eric and the boys. And they just have to they just spend the last minute and a half just selling stuff. Like, oh, remember Saturday night, we'll find out whether Hulk Hogan's dead or not. And next Monday on Nitro, you can also find out if Hulk's dead or not.
Yeah, they're like, we'll hear from Hulk Hogan to see how he is. It's like, we just heard from him. He's okay. We know he's okay. Unless there's something else happened that you haven't shown us.
Which is very likely.
Yeah. Jimmy Hart, decked him and...
Well, so far, if we're going off the way stories are told so far, it'll cut to Hulk Hogan in a hospital bed, but we won't be shown for 2 weeks why he's in the hospital bed.
And the hospital bed will be on like, some kind of like military ship. And it will be painted red and yellow.
Yeah, the HMAS Hulkster. With George W. Bush on the deck. We did it.
Finally.
Cool. Well, there's a bit of political commentary right at the end of the episode there. We are done. We're at where we are the Eric Bischoff and Bobby the Brain at the end of the episode, padding.
This was a not a very exciting episode, but I suspect we're in for something pretty special next week.
Why did you say that?
I legitimately don't know. I don't even know what's happening next week. I just assume it'll be better than this.
Yeah, this is my least favorite episode so far. And I gotta say, I think like not having Sting or the Hulk on at all really doesn't help. And Johnny B. Bad, obviously.
And we need a bit more monster truck action. Like, we're building to what is inarguably probably the greatest match in wrestling history. And like, where are the monster trucks?
That's true. You can't reveal them until Halloween Havoc, though, can you?
Well, they sort of had them in the promo. Like, they
Yeah,
had
that's
Hulk
true.
Hogan drive. They were like, Hulk Hogan's monster truck's going to be real cool. Then they just had it in the thing, and I was like, not how I would have done it. I mean, I would have dedicated the whole show to it, obviously.
Yeah, that's
Hulk
true.
Hogan
That's true.
building the monster truck himself.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a Fast and the Furious esque montage where it's like, the Hulkster and all his mates, the Nasty Boys, Jimmy Hart, building from scratch a monster truck.
You know what I don't want to see? The Nasty Boys.
I want to see a montage that ends with the Hulkster like doing the last of the spray paint. He's got like a welder's mask on and like an industrial spray paint can, and he like just puts the last bit of yellow on the truck and then flips up the miner's mask and is like, "I think we're ready to go, brother." That's what I want to see.
Well, I hope you get to see that.
All right, man. Let's leave it there. Just quickly, I forgot to do this on the last episode. Thank you for the people who are listening. I was telling Matthew about the amount of people who've been listening to the episode so far, and it's like a bit weird. So thank you. I mean, not you. You guys aren't weird for listening. That's the point. That's why we do this. But thanks. We're just a bit shocked when we see that there are actual real humans listening to this. So yeah, if you could find it in your hearts to rate and review it so we can get to even more people, that would be great. Give us a review, 5-star one if you could, would be great. Follow us on socials. We are WrestleWolf Pod on all the socials. And yeah, we'll be back next Monday with an even bigger and better episode of Reconsidering WCW Nitro.
Goodbye.
See ya.